Howdy, y'all.
All right,
Which
come
camera
toward
are we
me.
looking at here?
All right, so that's jockey cam, the one
Okay.
over here. All right. What are you doing here later, Tater?
Oh, I just thought I'd stop by, say hi, and
hello.
warn you that you're stuck with me for another year.
Oh.
So, yep, there's the big revelation. One more year of Tater.
Oh, my
So,
gosh.
Yeah. I hear Tot is giving me some competition,
Yeah,
so
he
I have
is.
to step it up just a little bit. But,
So
yep.
breaking news.
Breaking news. Yeah, they told me Friday. So one more year of later Tater.
Well, that's good.
So,
Well, how do you feel about it?
yes.
Well, I mean, I think you love this so much that you just don't want to walk away.
Well, there is some of that.
Yeah.
That also means I don't have to come up with a plan for another year.
There you go.
So there's that. My mom, not so thrilled.
No?
Yeah, well, she turns 80 this year, so this will be the last year. Because, we got to take care of family stuff.
Right.
But, one more year. There's going to be a lot of big changes coming up. We're going to see all the stuff on the north side. Month from now, not even.
Are we still on track? We're still on
We're
track?
still on track. As far as I know, the weather may have slowed things down a little bit.
Okay,
Every time it rains, that kind of throws a wrench into construction. But right now, we're still on track for like second week of February.
Okay.
They're going to flip-flop the north side runways. 24 left will close. 24 right will open. Originally, there was going to be about a week delay. Now it's going to be hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make up some time there because that already is delayed.
Wow.
But, so yeah, 24 right will open up, and then 24 left will close. And so you'll see everything, all the big stuff over here.
Right.
Because the 380s can land on 24 right.
Right.
They can't take off on 24 right. So all that, it'll be just like last summer or last fall when everything's coming across and departing on 25 left.
Since I got you here, that's one of the most asked questions. Explain to us why they cannot take off on 24 right and they must take off on 24 left or 25 left and not 25 right. Can you explain that to everyone?
Well, long story short, they don't fit.
Yeah.
The plane is just too freaking big. The issue, and without getting too deep in the weeds, the issue on the south side here on 25 right, I can actually launch a 747-800 on 25 right.
Okay.
It has to go from intersection Foxtrot. It can't go down to the very east end because there's no way for it to get there.
Oh.
We can't put it on taxiway Bravo, which is the taxiway closest to 25 right.
Right.
Because of wingtip clearance. There's just too much stuff too close to.
Right.
And in order for me to run it off of 25 right, taxiway Bravo has to be completely empty. All 2 miles of it.
Wow.
And so the only time we do that is on the overnight shift when the north side runways that it would normally use are closed.
Okay.
And so we can launch it off of 25 right. But like I said, Bravo has to be completely empty.
And we've seen a few times the Queen going backtracking on 25 right.
Yes.
Using the actual runway as a taxiway. Yeah.
Yeah, and that, you've seen the operation here. That takes a huge amount of time for that to happen. And meanwhile, nothing else is happening on that runway.
Right.
And so we try to avoid that just because of the hitch in the operations. But it's going to be something we have to work with.
I was going to say, last spring and summer having to deal with the A380s here on the south side, I'm sure knowing that it's coming up in less than a month, you guys are a little bit more prepared for the long duration of that.
We are. It's like we did last summer where there are, plans for, okay, when we're having to do this, we're going to do these other things to accommodate the operation. And it's going to be things like working with the approach control to give us extra room between the arrivals because you need extra room to get that thing out. And 25 left is normally an arrival runway. We're landing on it right now.
Right.
And so normally when we're using it just as an arrival runway, those airplanes can be as close as 2.5 miles apart. There's lots of stipulations in there, but they can be that close. I need to give a 380 off of 25 left. I need bare minimum about 7 or 8 miles because it takes that long for him to get onto the runway and go.
Right.
And I can't let him go until the previous arrival is off the runway down
Right.
here. And meanwhile, the next arrival still trucking along. And every now and then it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But we have some options on this side that we don't have on the north side right now. If it's getting really tight, I may be able to get the arrival to sidestep and land on 25 right. Can't do that on the north side right now. It'd be a really bumpy landing with all the bulldozers and things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always work either because sometimes the pilots say, we're unable. They aren't prepared for it or what have you. And so we try not to have to do that at the last minute. And, if they can't, then they go around and get to try it again. That makes for some interesting stuff because normally by that time the 380 or the 747-800 is already rolling. So now you're going to have 2 out here somewhere because of wake turbulence from the departure.
Yeah.
The guy going around is going to turn early, and he's going to be probably right over your head here in an early turn.
Nice.
So that he's not directly behind the heavy jet creating the wake turbulence.
Interesting.
That we
Can I
try to
ask you a
avoid
question?
that
You've been here in the tower since what year?
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
Is what we're seeing in the last year with all this construction and all this moving around, is this like the most challenging situation you've seen at the airport?
In quite a while. Construction is usually what does it. And of course, there's always something under construction here. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. At pretty much any big airport, there's always something under construction because it takes years to plan it, give it approved, get it done. And so there's already stuff that's in the planning stage now that won't happen for years. But
and they're actually expanding Taxiway Delta all the way to the west.
Taxiway Delta, yes.
It's currently under construction, right?
Well, that just opened Friday, the same day they told me that I got to stay.
Oh.
Taxiway Delta between Lima, which is right in front of us here,
right,
and I'm sorry, make sure I know what I'm talking about here. This is Lima. What I'm thinking of is Papa over here.
Okay.
Delta between Papa and Alpha Alpha, which is out the west end. That just opened on Friday.
Oh, okay.
That's in preparation for when we lose 24 left, we are also going to lose Taxiway Echo down there. Because just like what we did on 24 right, all of this it's not runway construction, it's taxiway construction. And all of these are runway exits. And so at some point you have to close the runway so the construction crews can get out there and actually pour concrete right up to the edge of the runway and move the lights and do all the other things. And so when they close 24 left, they will finish the exits that they've started off of 24 right. When you're over at the parking garage or the H Hotel, you can probably see where they've started those.
Oh, yeah. And
they come as far south as they can without getting into the runway safety area.
And since we're talking about that, can you explain, because one of the most asked questions is, what exactly are they doing there? And you've explained it to me, but it's probably coming better from you.
I just make it up as I go. What they're actually doing is if you look at a current airport diagram of LAX, you look at the north side and the 2 north side runways, the 2 4s or the 6s if you're going the other way, have very few exits between them.
Right.
And so when you're landing on 6 left, because we tend to land on the outboard when we can and depart on the inboard. And when you land on 6 left, there are very few opportunities to get off the runway. The first one is actually pretty much right in front of us here, Taxiway Yankee, which is kind of an angling, we would call it a high speed, except that it's not, I don't think it quite meets the official definition of being a high speed. There's angles and distances and things, and we don't have that here, but we call it that anyway. But that is so early in the runway that most arrivals can't make that exit. It's just too soon.
Right.
The only other opportunities are a couple of 90-degree turns, which require the airplane to come to almost a standstill, particularly the big guys. You've watched them. They come to almost a complete stop so that they can make that turn
Right.
for taxiway Tango, or now taxiway Romeo, what used to be Victor and Whiskey. That's one of the things that happens when you stay here for so long. Everything changes.
Everything changes.
Yeah, these used to be called something else. Those used to be called something else. You can tell I'm having a good day when I can't remember what they're called.
Well, can I ask you, so if we do reverse ops, east flow.
All of y'all at home, keep track of how many questions I have not answered so far.
If Echo is closed, does that mean if we have a reverse ops day, east flow, does that mean the A380s now have to come to the south side no matter what because Echo's closed up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But a lot of them do anyway.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
they'll have to be over here, and east traffic with a 380 is a lot of work for us because there's really nowhere down here for it to go.
Can I ask you why do the A380s? I know Emirates usually comes over here to the south side. Why do they choose 7 right for takeoff rather than most of them go to the north side?
Right. Every now and 7 right as opposed to 6 right, because 7 right is longer by a couple thousand feet, about a half mile, almost. I don't speak metric today. I'd have to think about it for a moment, but. Because runway 6 right is 10,285 feet, I think. Flowing flowers. 7 right is 11,000 and something.
Right.
If they could get 7 left, there would be another 1,000. They just don't fit there. So it's the distance of the runway. 7 right is also wider.
Okay.
That's actually 7 right is. And 2-5 left are designed for the big airplanes, what we call Design Group 6.
Okay.
380s, 748s, C5s, the random Antonov 124. We actually had one here.
Yeah,
not
just
too long
last week.
ago.
Yeah.
All of those are considered Airport Design Group 6, which is how long it is, the wingspan, the weight, whatever. And when you're designing an airport, like you do, that comes into play as to how far apart your runways and taxiways are, because you're worried about wingtip clearance.
Okay.
And so that's why, for instance, we can't put them on 2-5 right or 7 left except for taxi. They can taxi on that runway.
Right.
But they can't use it for landing or takeoff because they're just too close to the stuff next to them.
Okay.
So yeah, 7 right is longer. And plus, and we were talking about this earlier, actually. One of the other things that comes into play is what's off the end of the runway. 7 right, there's not much off the end of that runway.
Yeah.
If you go to the north side, 6 right, you've got the hotels, the parking garages and things that stick up. And they aren't that tall. But if you're sitting there doing all the takeoff calculations, that's one of the things that has to be considered is obstacles off the departure end of the runway.
Interesting.
And where it really matters is if you start taking off and then one of the engines quits. And above a certain speed, you have to be able to keep going. They call it decision speed, where you either stop or you keep going. And all these airplanes above a certain speed will be able to keep going. But they have to figure out, okay, what's the obstacle clearance?
Right.
And a lot of times you watch them, and it's like, he didn't need that runway.
Yeah.
And no, he didn't, because everything kept working. If he lost one of those engines, it would have gotten a whole lot more interesting down there somewhere.
Yeah. Out near the Proud Bird. Yeah.
Yeah, there'd be, hopefully not one more.
Yeah.
But yes, so that's another one of the things that comes into it. One other little trivia thing is the slope of the runway. Because these runways, they look level. It's 2 miles long, but it's higher at that end than it is at that end.
Right, yeah.
And it's, the east end of these runways, 2.5s, is 94, 98 feet, something like that. The departure end is about 120. This is feet above sea level.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
It is, yeah. And so that also comes into the calculations a little bit because it's an upslope if you're going this direction. Not a lot. You figure 2 miles?
Yeah.
But if your airplane weighs 500,000 pounds or more, it's going to matter.
Interesting.